Welcome back to the Circle Club show. I am here with my man, the legend, the Marvel expert himself, Corey of What's Next. And we are joined by the beautiful, wonderful, fantastico Jamie Lee of In the Front Row. Thank you, Jamie, for being here with us today. Much appreciation. How are you guys both doing?
Good, good.
Yeah,
A lot
same.
of thoughts about this She-Hulk series, huh? Not the most controversial show, huh? So just before we hop into it and let you guys know, we all have different perspectives on this thing. This isn't really the type of show where we're trying to convince each other of our point. We're just kind of giving our thoughts, our own and personal takes on it, and yeah, just talking about what we liked, what we didn't like, the whole show, the episode, where we think Marvel is heading, the direction, all that kind of thing. Maybe we talk Black Panther. Who knows? But we're gonna have a good time here. But before we go off, I just wanted to ask Corey, our Marvel expert, what did you think about this finale, She-Hulk finale?
Yeah, so specifically on this episode itself, I actually enjoyed it. I've been
Yep.
a critic, obviously, of this season thus far, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But for this episode, I thought it was fun. Like, I was into it. I was laughing. Like, it was an engaging, I think, a fresh and different thing that we've never really seen before within the MCU. So it was
Yeah.
pretty interesting to watch throughout, and that's what I really liked.
Mm. Jamie, you had different feelings about the show. And
Yeah,
how did you feel?
the complete opposite. I feel
Yeah.
like everything. Firstly, I think it was probably one of the worst and most frustrating watches that I have watched in a while. And just the other week on
Mm.
my YouTube channel, I put up that I hated the Walking Dead, Tales of the Walking Dead episode 2. And I never thought I would say that, but this topped it. This was worse than that. I
Yeah.
just feel like everything was just a waste, and I am left asking more questions than I am things being answered. And I don't like watching shows that have lots of questions at the end. It's
Mm.
Yeah.
frustrating to me. I feel like there was way too many. Oh, anyway, we'll go into all the little details. But yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy this episode at all. I didn't enjoy the series at all. I regret
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel like uh I kind of get both sides and perspectives. Like, there's definitely, like, for me, some funny moments, some ha moments, and I think also this may be like sort of a regional cultural thing too, like where some of the things aren't translating. Because I can imagine, like we were talking offline about how one of the jokes is about, like, oh, female, and you're like, no one's ever called me a female, and I'm like, Corey and I like, oh yeah, that's a thing here for sure. So there's like, I think there's a lot of sort of issues across the board here. Marley, what's up? How are you? Thank you for joining us. Marley.
Marley loved it as well. So
Oh,
2 for
really?
2.
Marley loved it. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So there you
Marley's
go.
team Corey.
Um, honestly, I felt this. In my opinion, I thought this was a creative thing that they were trying to do at the end here, but the series as a whole, I'm gonna say this hot take. I feel like it's set female writers back, because this was not. This was like, and I'll use black people because I'm black, right? It's like, if Black Panther was like this hood drama and people are rapping and there's all this stuff where it's like stereotypical, like, as a black person, I would watch this and be like, I'm not cool with this, And so I can only imagine how some women feel watching this, where it feels like just very stereotypical, right? Like, I didn't like how Jen, um, do you guys, before we get into, do you guys want to talk about this episode first or the season? Because I'm sort of doing the season thing right now, so that's why.
Yeah, I think we stick with the episode first,
All right,
and then we
so
get into the season, because I think we're all on the same page on the season.
yeah, and so specifically to this episode, it felt like she just 180'd, in my opinion, at the end here, of like, hey, why is a man saving me at the end, and all this sort of thing, and I just. I can't get a pulse on who Jen really is, and that was a big issue for me. Jamie Lee.
Yeah, she's a brat. And that ticks me off because it's not even, she is, let's be honest. She was bratty with Hulk. Oh, I know better. I can do better. And now in this one, she comes in, wants to be a Karen. I want my episode to go like this. This is my show. I'm going to do it my way. Everything is about her. And I get it. It's her show, that She-Hulk. We get it. But I just feel like, she's just such a brat about it. And for somebody who is supposed to be this lawyer, this educated, really smart, career-driven woman, same as you, I just think what a step backwards in showing that she's a career-driven, educated woman who knows what she wants, doesn't want to be sexualized, but can be sexy at the same time. All these different factors, but they contradict each other. Every single topic or aspect that they try to do just contradicts itself. You sit there and say about the female thing being, I've never personally been called a female. I did not even know that was an insulting thing. You guys told me about it off air that, that's a really big deal for you guys over there. Yeah. But maybe again, as Corey said, cultural thing. But even still, you sit there and say, don't call me a female, women better than men, or whatever the hell the point is. And then you have the female friend who, when Titania comes like knocking in, she's like, can that bitch not use a door? Like, you are literally insulting women with women. It's like, what is going on with this? The writing is just so choppy.
Yeah, and this is where I think I actually liked the episode, right? Because me and Tyrone obviously talk a lot about this on and offline, and I think that was the biggest problem I've had with the season thus far, right? It's very contradicting in everything that's going on. Like, 1 minute she's putting up like this facade that she has it all figured out, she's confident, but then at the same time she's not confident in herself, so she has to like be She-Hulk on Tinder, right? And things like that. So very contradicting. And I think the reason why I actually enjoyed this last episode was because it does a lot of calling itself out on the things that we are already saying, right? So I kind of enjoyed the humor behind that. And I almost like, even though it's kind of a throwaway, but I kind of like this whole Kevin aspect at the end, where it's like all this awful writing and storyline really is coming from this, right? And I feel like this is the thing that they did do well with She-Hulk, in a sense, is like this whole fourth wall breaking, and how they kind of just like fully dived into it in this episode, where she really is like fully breaking the fourth wall physically by going to Disney Plus and things. Like, I just thought that was so creative.
That was a cute moment.
I thought it was just so creative and different that like gave She-Hulk more shine the way she should have been, right? And I think it kind of puts a band-aid over a wound at the end of the day, because this episode doesn't make the season and the series better, right? But I think it gives you more of the things that I personally wanted as an MCU fan, some tie-ins to, okay, where was Hulk this whole time? And I get it where you're saying like he has a son, like, okay, now I'm getting more questions, right? But it's starting to tie to larger things, and I feel like a lot of people's problem right now with the MCU is it's not tying to larger things. So by, I think, putting the Band-Aid on the end, you can kind of throw it away as, hey, this was supposed to be a creative project. She had to break the fourth wall. It was going to be a little clunky with the way the MCU has worked thus far. I think it was, to me, just an interesting, fun way. On an episode I already had extremely low expectations for, and I think that's why I ultimately enjoyed it. The season has set the bar extremely low for me, so when you get a little enjoyment out of it, I think it outweighs a lot of how I would feel with this episode if it was an actual good show beforehand.
Yeah, I think I Jay Lomas made this joke here. He says, it's like, who needs a reality show when you can literally physically rewrite your own story? Like, that was very funny to me. I thought that was a creative thing. And like the idea that Kevin, like Feige, we're all expecting to fight. Like, this is why you got to watch shows with the subtitles, because the way that they spelled Kevin was K.E.V.I.N. And then like she was like Kevin, and it just didn't have that, right? And so like it's sort of funny, because it's almost like, all right, the Disney machine wants us to have this strong woman who's independent, but wait, she can't be that strong. A man has to save her at the same time. But so I feel like if they approach it from the jump, where they're almost being a parody or making fun of the idea of like, oh, let's get the token character in there and all that, I think it would have just worked a little bit better. So to Corey's point, I do think at the end here, when we get that, it does make it a little bit more enjoyable. I particularly think what was a bit silly, in my opinion, was how after all of this build up, and she's talking about the ending and all that, her worst enemy is incels, which is like, yes, incels are terrible people, right? But like, it's just not what you were really expecting. So I get where Jamie Lee's coming from, where it's like, what are we doing here? I mean, even the fact that she stops and she's like, what the hell is going on, right? Jamie Lee, I don't know if you had anything there.
I hated that fourth wall break. I've really liked the fourth wall breaks throughout the series. You know, when she turns around, my favorite one was when she turned around and she's like, are you guys feeling this? Like when her and Daredevil had that chemistry. Great, perfect timing, really good, funny, whatever. But this just blows my mind. How is she able to physically leave that universe, join us outside of this She-Hulk universe that she's in, the show, leave that and rewrite her own story purely because, again, having that freaking Karen moment where I want it my way and I'm a brat and I'm going to get everything that I want. How is she able to do that? Are we going to see Deadpool come in and rewrite his own story? Is he going to walk out and be like, oh, I don't want Wolverine and I want Wolverine in a yellow suit, not a, you know, jeans and a shirt? Like, where is that going to end? That is sloppy writing. It's a lazy way to not finish what you should have started. You talked about, you know, having a man come in and save her. Hey, guess what? You didn't need a man to come in and save you. If you had better writing, She-Hulk could have defeated freaking Todd by herself. One flick of the finger. And he's gone. Like, it's just stupid. It's just ridiculous. And it's very lazy.
So what Marley Loves Film here says, it's very truthful to the comics. Jen is constantly unraveling and rewriting her own storyline to make it work. I think, you know, from studying film, reading scripts and things, the fourth wall, like anyone who studies this stuff knows the fourth wall is the most difficult thing to write because it always tethers on cheesy or just not properly done, right? And I think that's why people love Deadpool so much. That first one is because we were like, wow, this was actually properly executed, right? I think it's going to be different. They have different types of fourth walls. I think Deadpool is more so looking at the camera, where, as Marley was saying, you know, she can sort of rewrite the story. She may be in her own universe. We don't know. I think let's focus on, real quick, some of the positives that we got out of here, right? So Corey said, the thing that we got from that, Jamie Lee is one of my favorite guests of all time. Like, just so raw, so authentic. That's what me and Corey love. But like, the thing that we did get was a lot of Easter eggs and about other things going on. One thing that happened in this series and in this episode, particular, Daredevil came back. I like the chemistry between those two. How do you feel?
I'm not sure how I feel about it, honestly. Like, I don't hate it, but I really don't love it at the same time, right? Like, I think it was like a fun little fling in this episode, but I don't think it should be something that like continues on. I think
Corey, I want it.
To Jamie Lee's point, though, I think the sloppiness of the series, to not completely move away from the last subject we were talking about, the sloppiness of the series leaves a lot of questions, right? So it's like, because it technically is within this universe, right? It's our Bruce, it's our new Daredevil, right? Like, it's showing a lot of signs that this is still within the context of the MCU. So the fourth wall messes me up. So now, like, with Daredevil being in here and then you finish with him, it's like, all right, like, how does this also connect her moving forward, right? Like, and I think that's what ultimately brings it back down to earth, is like, you have to also take it in context to the full season. And my concern with Daredevil specifically, because you asked the question, is I don't really think Daredevil's tone matches the She-Hulk tone at all with, I think, the Daredevil we want to see within the MCU. So that concerns me a little bit, because for me, I'm looking for a little bit darker of a Daredevil, and I feel like that's a complete, it's like oil on water with the She-Hulk that we've been presented here, right? So I think that's where I land in wanting that to not continue.
Can I say something before you answer, Jamie Lee?
Go for it.
So I feel so. Marley said, She-Hulk better visit in Matt Murdock when in Born Again, right? Daredevil Reborn Again. I think the Daredevil that we perceive from the Netflix series, you gotta sort of just go, forget it, right? And I think also because we've already seen it, don't you think it's a little bit more interesting for them to see a newer version or a different sort of style? Like that's where Marvel tends to do their best work, in my opinion, is when they decide to go a little bit away from what the comics want. And the thing is like playing into who She-Hulk is, right? It's her whole thing is about women empowerment and all that. I think most men would agree in heterosexual relationships, at least, that women usually make you a better person. And it would be interesting to sort of see how they could use her to balance him and vice versa. And I think he could also teach her some things too, because he's also a lawyer, right? He's also intelligent. I think as superheroes, there was that moment in this season where like he was sort of like, the way you're approaching it, like, why are you kind of doing this way? Like, let's get to the point. And she's like, or no, he was like, be a little bit more diligent. And she's like, I can just go in there and smash everything, right? So I think they both have things to learn from each other, where we could see some value in there.
And no, I think to your point, to just jump in real quick, is I think that's why they're making this connection, right? There's an obvious surface level similarity with them being lawyers and superheroes, right? But I think she learns that lesson, and it's not a throwaway at the end with the interview when they ask her, like, are you going to be like fighting in and outside? And she kind of admits that she's going to do both finally. I think because it doesn't come from Bruce, right? It comes from the conversations and lessons she had with Matt, I think within the previous episodes. So I think what's great about that, to focus on the positives, is less leaning on Hulk for what she needs to get to where she has to be as a superhero, and leaning more on Matt Murdock might be the more realistic individual that gets her to where she needs to be, because she is more on, I think, Daredevil's level right now, where obviously Hulk is still that OG Avenger top tier, right? It's not as relatable as I think Matt is to her.
Yeah. Jamie Lee, you want to comment on some of these things?
I liked the chemistry between Matt and Jen, but in the very last episode, and one thing I did have an issue with in the previous episode before that, when they slept together, is Daredevil doing that walk of shame. I was like, the Daredevil that I know is very secretive about his identity. He doesn't want people to know that he is Daredevil. In this universe, I guess you could call it, are we going to see him so carefree like that? Like just walking around, like he's not walking around as Matt. He was walking around as Daredevil. She was like, there's a devil outside. So I didn't like that, because he's very careful. Unlike She-Hulk, who was just like, I'm just going to expose myself and this identity that I have. He's very different to that. So I didn't like that aspect of it. But in the last episode, I thought, this is just terrible. The fact he literally said he's going to New York, then he pops out of the sky to come and save her, when she's literally just said, I don't need a man to save me. But wait, I need Matt Murdock, or Daredevil, because a girl has needs, I think was her proposal to Kevin. Yeah. And I just think a girl has needs, but you're sitting there telling us that is a bad way of thinking because men think like that. But yet you have this same agenda and it's totally fine. So I was really ticked off in that last episode that he was Daredevil to me is basically just an F-boy. And I don't like that, because to me, that's his thing. He goes around and sleeps with women. You know, that's his that's taken. He's a lawyer. He's an F-boy.
Yeah, and I think this is where I'm saying, where I think it comes into some of these cultural things, because I think like culturally where we are in America, at least, is like there's a shift where it's like, are you watching House of the Dragon at all? Like Game of Thrones? Like, and you see the same thing going on in Game of Thrones, where it's like there's these conversations, right, where they say things like, oh, if it was a man or if it was the prince sleeping around, no one would bat an eye. But because it's Rhaenyra, the princess, everyone's blowing, oh my God, how dare you, and do this thing. So I think there's sort of this conversation that's taking place right now. Definitely. Where it's sort of like, where it's like, hey, men do the same thing, go get your nut, one wants to do the same thing. So I think it's culturally sort of a thing going on. But I do agree where obviously there's a plot hole there. It's like, weren't you just going to New York? I will say, and this is maybe a question for Corey, I don't really know, and this is where the whole superhero thing is very confusing. I don't know who knows who in these worlds. Like, they have Twitter and stuff, right? So you gotta know who Daredevil is, right?
I was about to say, they made it seem like Daredevil is extremely known here, right? Because when he's around, and I forget if it was this episode or a different episode, people were like basically commenting like, "Oh, it's Daredevil," right? Like they kind of already knew who he was already. I forget remember. Where there was some point. I don't think it was this episode, but the first episode he was in, there was it wasn't Jen, but it was other individuals who had like referenced him, like they already knew who Daredevil was when they saw him, right? So I think to your point, I think within this universe, Daredevil seems to be more in the public, so to speak, which is interesting because it's going to what Jamie Lee said, is it's a complete like shift from like the Netflix version you see of him, right? And the more so Daredevil you're used to being a little bit more secretive, right? And I didn't, to Jamie Lee's point too, I really didn't like that him just plopping out of the sky thing, right? Like it like changes the dynamics of how the MCU actually works, right? So it's leaving too many questions, but I got to go back and reference that point, but I'm very certain that people were almost referencing him like they knew who he was.
I'd be curious to see if you do find that, because I thought it was the opposite, because the friend was like, there's a devil out, someone's dressed as a devil outside, so they didn't know who Daredevil was. And same with Wolverine. In the newspaper there, they said something about there's a man with metal claws running around in New York City or something like that, so they don't know who Wolverine is, and they don't know who Daredevil is how I took it anyway. I'm curious to see if you can find that.
I think this might be a conversation about the larger MCU of what's going on. I there's something funky going on. And I don't know if you guys feel it just watching all of these shows. It feels as if like there's like a little bit of a confusion in the air, right? It just like it feels like after that blip happened, people are not as aware of superheroes, but there's this rise in superheroes happening. And I think and that might be the incursions. It might be the multiverse. There's something going on.
I think a lot of it, and we got to remember too, like, again, I look at this as like phase 1 again. Phase 4 to me is another phase 1, right? So we're going to have, I think, more questions than answers as we progress forward, right? And I think the biggest event and really thing that kicked off phase 4 after Endgame and the end of the Infinity Saga is the Loki sacred timeline being broken, right? And I feel like it's really ever since that point that in every single property, things have been unraveling, so to speak, right? And I think it's on purpose that we don't fully have these answers, because I think Marvel, at the end of the day, like to Kevin's point, right? Like they have, I think, the algorithm and they figure it out, right? And I think and I think that because of how much they called out things within this show that we were already complaining about, right? So like you and me, Tyrone, always talk about like the frustrating part about this show is how self-aware they are about the awful things within the show, right? And it's like, why would they be so self-aware of the things we hate? Like they already knew it was coming, right? It has to be on purpose, right? And there has to be intent behind these things. And I think the move with Kevin specifically reminded me a lot of Loki, right? And like the secret thing that's being worked in the background, right? And I think a lot of what we're going to see moving forward, obviously, is playing into the multiverse, playing into things like that. But we're going to, I think, get a better, or not even a completely different shift in what the MCU is compared to what we've seen for like the 10 years before this, right? And I think it only makes sense, not just because of the multiverse, but to establish a new tone as well. Because a lot of people that I know too that are speaking that aren't just like us aren't getting into all the shows, right? Aren't watching everything because they feel like it's a little too much to this point, right? So I think there has to be a shift there that brings people's attention, and I don't think it'll come until some of those dots start to come together at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, to wrap up the She-Hulk and Daredevil thing, it's definitely something they're going to play with. I mean, I know, Corey, you're not the biggest rom-com fan. I
Mm.
do like some rom-coms. I don't know about you, Jamie Lee. Do you like rom-coms?
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah. I think they're fun, they're cute, they're playful, right? But I think we haven't really seen too many romances other than Spidey and MJ, Tony and Pepper,
Mm.
right? So I feel like we're kind of due. I mean, Thor and Jane, sort of. That was a mess, but I think we're due to see some of that thing. And one thing we've mentioned on the Circle Club a ton is Disney is now at this point where they've gotten so large that they're gonna start doing these genre pieces, right? We just got this sort of Halloween werewolf series, Wolf by Night. I would say Miss Marvel in itself is sort of this coming of age story about where's she from again? Apologies.
Pakistan.
Yes, thank you. A Pakistani girl. And Loki is this space odyssey adventure thing. And so I think we're gonna start to see these more specific genres. So I think we're definitely gonna get some more romance from those two. How it plays out from the audience, because as you said, a lot of people start watching. So if you go to Daredevil and She-Hulk are start together, maybe people go, what is going on here? Speak of what is going on here, apparently Hulk has been sleeping around. He's got a kid. What is that all about?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think this is just going. I think this is what they're trying to do here, and I'm starting to notice this too a little bit. Is there's a little bit of fan service going on with a lot of what they're doing in properties, right? They're really catering, I think, to what people ultimately want to see. And I think something that's never been done is like a really good Hulk movie, right? We've always kind of
Yeah.
talked about how Hulk is this big superhero, really hasn't gotten his moment to shine. He's always kind of like a part of the OGs, but he's not that holy trinity, right? And as far as in pop culture and everything, Hulk and Captain America were really those two guys, right? Like those are you have Luther Igno, who was the original Hulk, right? It was the original superhero that you could even accomplish by putting on the silver screen, right? And I think the story that can actually get people interested, right, is obviously a World War Hulk and getting the involvement of his kid and things like that. So I think this is where this pushes, because also you look at Thor Ragnarok, right, and the success of Thor Ragnarok and people liking Sakaar, it's only helping further connect stories together, but expand on a character who really hasn't gotten his own show, right? His cousin She-Hulk got a show before, or a movie before he really did, right? And although we had the Incredible Hulk with Norton, right, Ruffalo really hasn't gotten his day, right? And I think in everybody's opinion, Ruffalo is your favorite Hulk. So Hulk needs his moment to shine. And the only way I think to connect that is via the way they're going about this, by introducing his kid and the storyline with World War Hulk and probably ties in with Sakaar.
And I know you probably hate that, Jamie, because it just leaves so many questions and you're like, where the hell did this come from?
No, my questions were nothing to do with Hulk. They were not. I was totally fine seeing those little Easter eggs thrown in there again, because that was fan service. I've heard about Hulk having a child like episode 2 of this, when the spaceship came down in episode 1. After that episode, people were talking about him having a kid. And I was like, whoa, wow, okay. So I definitely knew that was floating around in the air. That's not what I've got the questions with. The questions was purely with the whole, her breaking the fourth wall. Will Deadpool do that? Will she get a second season? Because this season was a total nothing. What happened? You introduced us to somebody who doesn't even know herself. And if that was the point for us to know herself, I'm disappointed, because you told me that she was a lawyer and I didn't see that. I saw her do one case with Emil. That's it. You're telling me she's a lawyer who gets a female, sorry to use that word, guys, but female woman of the year, lawyer of the year, whatever the hell it is. She gets that for doing one case. She's been fired from her job for exposing herself as a superhero. Show me the law. Show me these cases, because that's interesting. Be unique. Be funny with these cases. Sure, be different. But show me a lawyer, She-Hulk. Show me a lawyer, Jen. Show me something other than the fact that she's going on all these failed dates and just everything was a waste. It was a waste to me, guys. I'm sorry, but it was. The whole bridesmaid episode, what?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even know this character. This stupid, ugly little dog, like...
No, I think, listen, you're completely validated in what you're saying here. I think one thing in particular, not to get political, the American justice system sucks. Like, it's just a total mess. And I feel like this could have been a great opportunity almost to give it like give us an opportunity to show how things don't work out, right? You know, we have so many law shows. I think about How to Get Away with Murder in that specific show, like they show you different types of cases from each episode, and they show you how the law works. You know, and they sort of started to do that a little bit where it's like, all right, we got a copyright case, we got a defamation case, but even still then, like, those episodes were so short and it really didn't feel like a law show. And I think my main criticism of the show as a whole had to do with this sort of like, I'm chasing a man. Like every week we would say, we're like, is the goal of She-Hulk to get a boyfriend? Like, what is the goal of She-Hulk? It just, it was so bizarre. And I think this character, there is some interesting things to do with this character. So I'm not like, all right, this character sucks, I'm out on it. But particularly with this show, I think it was almost like a playground for them to use. So if I would like a second season. Hot take, that's crazy, I know. I would like a second season where they do some of those things, Jamie Lee, where they explore the law. They explore the law. They explore a little bit more than her going on a date. We got a comment here from Marley Loves Swim. He says Jennifer Gao, the showrunner, has stated that her writers were not interested in the lawyering of She-Hulk. So
okay, fantastic.
That was the goal.
So don't call it attorney at law. Call it She-Hulk. Call it She-Hulk goes on a date. Call it She-Hulk dating. Call it anything you want. Don't call it attorney at law. That is literally from Daredevil. It's on his it's on his beautiful sign. You know, Murdoch and I forget the other name, Foggy. Whatever. Anyway, and then underneath it says attorney at law. Don't have that in the title if you are not going to make it about law. And as you said, what a missed opportunity, because you mentioned Murder, She Wrote or whatever those shows were, but tell me a show. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Tell me a show that focuses on a female lawyer representing superheroes. They made this whole department to focus on representing superheroes. There's no other show that does that. What a new and exciting and a unique way to bring something fresh to the MCU. And you failed. You didn't touch on it at all.
That's why How to Get Away with Murder was such a popular show, is because Viola Davis was this woman who was a badass going through, like, doing her thing, right? And we just didn't really get that here. Corey, I don't know. What's your temperature? How are you feeling?
For season 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I mean, if it's the same type of stuff we're getting here, I'm all set. Like, I don't need that. I think what they were trying to do with this show, and obviously I think they didn't stick the landing, was really trying to make it more about, I think, Jen and She-Hulk, like, accepting each other as, like, one, right? Like, we think about Hulk and Bruce, right? Like, it's taken so long for him to get to that point, right? And something that they set as the tone in the first episode was that, like, a lot of the struggles Hulk had to go through, or Bruce and Hulk, she didn't have to, right? She didn't have the two personalities. So it's more about juggling her brand new life, having She-Hulk within it, right? And you see the pushback, right? And then you almost see, like, within the middle in the Tinder, right? Like, her relying on She-Hulk, but then she's neglecting Jen, right? And she feels bad about Jen. So if they made the show, and like I said, if they actually stick the landing, made it about her being, like, accepting of She-Hulk within her life and everything that comes with it, and she's just now rolling out of the show like that. And I think that's what they tried to do here at the end, especially, like I said, with that comment about, like, I'm gonna do both, right? And, like, her within this episode saying, like, oh, I didn't think I was gonna miss it, but I'm missing it, right? So I think they were trying to set that tone. Like, the show was really all about her accepting she is She-Hulk, and they are one, and she has to kind of live in both worlds and enjoy that, right? And I think she did get there, but the way they got her there wasn't well executed.
Very
right?
bumpy.
Very, very bumpy. And I think that's ultimately what my takeaway was.
Yeah.
So that if that was the case and season 2's rolling around, like it's gotta be like we said, tight. Like she's gotta be confident. She gotta know her stuff. There's none of this contradicting back and forth. Like it has to be walking that straight line. This is who her character actually is. And I really feel like we haven't seen She-Hulk the character as she is, and I feel like that's who we're gonna see moving forward. But it's a shame that it was at the cost of this season, because now our excitement for She-Hulk is extremely low. Like I'm not gonna see her in Secret Wars or wherever she pops up and be like, oh my god, She-Hulk, right? But just like Thor, right? You can redeem a character, right? You can redeem them. So if this is the case, I very much like to see the new Jen and She-Hulk.
Yeah, I mean, oh, Jamie, you look like you got some fights. Let me hear something. Let me hear something. Give me something. Give me a soundbite, Jamie.
Backwards with Thor. Backwards with Thor. But anyway, different opinions there. But what was the question? I got distracted with Chris Hemsworth.
No, it was. I was just saying, like, because Corey was saying here that he thinks that they have to go a different direction in season 2, and he feels that he's not as interested in She-Hulk in the next coming seasons or wherever she's going next. It's like weird. Like, even though I hated this show, I thought there was good moments, and I could see how to fix the show. So it almost made me like, maybe that's because I'm a creative person. Like, it made me want to like see more of her from someone else's angle, if that makes sense. But it seems like you guys are both a bit like completely turned off. You don't want to see any more of her. So I was curious
I'm happy
what you
to
thought.
See her. Yeah, I'm definitely happy to see her again, but just as cameos in other things, as you said, Secret Wars, stuff like this. I don't want to see She-Hulk season 2. What are you going to put? Attorney at law again, and then we go on someone's having a kid this time? Like, it's just pathetic. I'm sorry, but it really is. I didn't enjoy it at all. I thought they relied so much on the cameos, and the fact that you said that they acknowledged all this stuff. They acknowledged, the fact that we would hate this before we hated it. Things like this. Yeah. Great. So how about you actually do something about it and give us fans who do love you. We put money into Marvel. We give these people jobs. Show us what we want. Like, we want to see World War Hulk. We want to see all these things. And I don't know. Like, they give us I did chuckle at that when Hulk did come down to save her, and he's like, raw, like angry Hulk. That was great. That part was funny. But, like, I don't know. There's just absolutely no accountability in the show for Jen or towards, like, women taking accountability for things. It's all men hate. It's all not what I expected at all. I expected it to be, people say, oh, you got to take it and look at it like a sitcom. Fair enough. Great. Com is in that word. It needs to be funny. I didn't laugh. I mean, that was one moment. Incredible Hulk, when they said, oh, he's incredible. And that was funny. And when Hulk said, that I'm literally a different person now, talking about Edward Norton and things. Those three moments there were like the only things I laughed at. This was not a comedy to me. And I'm disappointed that there was not enough lawyering, not enough funny. And I just think she can't hold this show herself. I really don't believe that. So show me her in Daredevil. Show me her in Secret Wars. Show me her in whatever you want to throw her in, but do not put her in another series, because me, for one, I'm not going to watch it. I would rather sit there and watch these people rip on her and know what's going on from that, rather than watch that series. It was a complete waste of my 8 hours.
By series, by the way, you mean like season, right?
Season.
You say series. Yeah, because you could say series over there. But I think, taking a step back and trying to be unbiased, I could definitely see some people thinking this was a really funny show. It's not my sense of humor at all. It really isn't. Like, but I could see some people sitting here laughing and thinking this is the funniest show that they've done. Because, like, there's some people who think Loki, for example, isn't very funny. But I think Loki's hilarious because it's like a bit more dark. It's a bit more, stab you gut to the throat kind of thing. And like, that's sort of my humor. So I think, but the people were saying it's more of a sitcom, right? I think they played into a lot of the sitcom tropes. But just because you break the fourth wall or you have the celebrity guest, that's a sitcom thing, right? It doesn't mean that you've checked the boxes off and it works, right? So if we do get another season, and again, maybe this is just me being too optimistic, but I think if we got another season and made it work, it could work. I really do believe that personally. Let's see what else we got here. Marley's comment was funny. He said She-Hulk will be born again. She's definitely going to show up in the Daredevil series. What did you think about Abomination in this? Like, is Abomination, you think, leaning anti-hero? Is he going to be a hero, a villain? I love Wong, by the way. Wong in this series, phenomenal. That was a great takeaway. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, for me, I don't know what's going on here. Honestly, like this is kind of leaning into like what Jamie was saying. Like, it's a lot of questions, right? Like, I just don't understand this dynamic of like what Emil's goal is, right? Like, he seems like he's like obviously just kumbaya, like namaste. But then he's linking up with Wong, which you would kind of think, right? Like the monk, like Sorcerer Supreme probably is like namaste as well. But like, why does he need Emil so much, right? Like the one comment they made was that he needed practice, like he needed to get ready as Sorcerer Supreme. But like really, and this is why I say, like, I think there's just like things that are going on that they're only giving us bits and pieces, and we're gonna a lot of it's gonna make a lot more sense later on, right? And it sucks. Like in
the moment, it's tough.
It's tough, but like they're clearly doing something here, right? And I don't know what. I really don't know what it is, right? I was always leaning on the fact that thought Abomination was going to be in the Thunderbolts. And he still might be, right? It might just be like they're holding off a little bit, but they don't announce him in it, right? So like, what is the play here with Abomination? What is the play here with Wong either, right? Like, because clearly the sorcerers and the mystic arts is going to be heavily involved moving forward. So where is these connections coming from, right? I think that's ultimately where all the frustrations are coming from. Not only Jamie, myself, but a lot of people in the community is like, you got to start making these strings tied together so that we're not frustrated.
I mean, everyone's just trying to get their SAG credits in. That's what's going on here. You know, got to get a couple rolls in, couple checks. Pay for the second houses. That's what's going on here, or as it appears, because we don't know what the hell's going on. I mean, one of the big criticisms of Phase 4 in the beginning, everyone's like, I remember, like, a lot of people love WandaVision. I was not rocking with WandaVision. And that seems crazy, right? But like, that's sort of the state of where MCU is. It's like they're making these shows for such particular audiences that it's not gonna feel like an Iron Man 1 or Thor 1 or what, like it's not really for everyone per se. It's because now we have so many voices, and I think people forget, like in the 2000s and 2010s, like movies were pretty one-dimensional. There was, or at least superhero, it was pretty like, you know, you get your power, you don't know how to use the power, you resolve it. Yay, you clap hands and you're good at the end. And now, because we have these different people coming in, different perspectives, different races, sex, gender, all that, like there's all these new storytelling that we're not quite used to. And I think it's going to take some time. And honestly, there just may be some shows that you don't watch. I think that's a little bit weird for us because you're like, oh, you got to watch all the Marvel properties, but there's just some, and we make content, so we watch it all, right? But a lot of my friends, I'm sure your friends as well, skipped out on this one. They've skipped out on Hawkeye. You know, they skipped out on Miss Marvel. I loved Miss Marvel. So I think that's sort of the state of where we are in the MCU. And it's frustrating because, to piggyback on what Corey said, the reason I didn't like WandaVision initially, I was like, where's the connection to the larger MCU? What is going on here? And that was my mindset going into it. I learned as we watched more that, oh, this is more about building up these individual characters, right? I don't think a lot of people are there yet. And that's exactly what we're looking for. So they try to give those Easter eggs. They try to make these bigger connections, but you don't want to give out, the entire secret sauce in phase 4, because phase 5 is where that buildup is going to happen. Jamie, do you have any to add there, or are you just you're done? You don't want to see anymore?
I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe they should take a step back from the series. Like, it seems like everybody's, as we talked about, frustrated with where things are going, and maybe is there too much? Is there an overload work-wise, for the staff making these things? And I just read the other day about the Blade thing when Blade has been pushed back now. And I read that it's because Kevin, the actual. Sorry,
he's too spread thin. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and he is literally reading the script for that now, and it's supposed to be filmed in November. So it's like there's so many projects that he has to overlook, and I just think maybe they suck because, there's not a second set of eyes on this going, wait a minute, or I don't know. I just feel like the movies worked so good. Then they started to make a lot of series. I liked WandaVision. That was my favorite out of all of them, and then Loki. But, when it came to something like Moon Knight, which I thought would be great because it's completely different to things that we've seen in the MCU, or in Marvel in general, I didn't like it. I hated it. And I was like, what is this? Unfinished again. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know where he's going to pop up. And from that is where things started to unravel for me. And I was like, what's going on? This was supposed to introduce these 3 characters. I know 2 of those 3 characters at the moment, and you're supposed to put him in a different show, and everything's supposed to work? How? And then same with Miss Marvel. I really thought Miss Marvel was a perfect opportunity to show
you didn't like Miss Marvel?
I loved it. I did. I did like it. But I left with more questions because I was like, what happened with the second ring? How does that link with her history and her culture of her great-grandmother when it's links into, hey, Captain Marvel has, that's my point. Should some of these things have been made into movies rather than series? Because
definitely,
budget-wise, like even the CGI with She-Hulk, everyone was complaining, but I know a girl, like in my personal life, who worked on the CGI, and there is so many factors budget-wise that they're constricted because of the fact that it's a series and not a season.
Oh, yeah.
You guys call it, and not a TV series. Not a movie. Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. It is TV series. You're right. You're right. Yeah. No.
Anyway, my point is, I think he's spread a little too thin, and maybe some of these projects, instead of having so many, I mean, look at the ones in the works coming up, right? There's so many.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of having all of these that like chucks people in and we don't really get to know them, maybe make a movie and let's get to know them. That's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, and I think part of why they're doing it as TV series, and this is where I always look at the distinction, right? Like when I hear an MCU movies coming out, like to me that means, okay, hey, this is really serious, right? Like this is important.
Totally.
Right? And I think this is why they take the avenue on TV shows for a lot of these other characters they're introducing, because it's a lot safer, right? It's easier for them to fail on this median and then try to play around and try to bounce back. And I think to Tyrone's point, and something me and Tyrone has really been talking about for years, is Disney is casting a wider net, right? Like they've kind of they kind of tapped the well on all the people that they could have got already, right?
Yes.
So they gotta spread out even more in those interests. And I think that's why a lot of these shows have such vastly different tonalities and different demographics and audiences that they're going for, because what they're trying to do now through not only introducing these characters and trying new ways and being creative in doing it, but the purpose ultimately at the end of the day, because we're big business guys over here, is to claim more audience, right? And I think with Miss Marvel, it's very obvious who they're trying to get at. I think a lot of times within these shows and who they're trying to capture within that audience, because I think they look at it a lot of times as it's easier to start tying those dots together later on and making people have those aha moments. But let's focus on introducing this character, pulling in this audience. Yeah, we might piss off Jamie Lee right now on this, but we have this in the wings that we know she'll be happy about, right?
Correct.
So there's a lot more frustrating moments now But like I also told Tyrone, we got so many projects that at the end of the day, when you start balancing it out, you're actually left with a lot more good than you even had before because of the amount of quantity that's out, right? So obviously the overall level of quality might have dropped, but you're still getting more of the things you do like because they've cast such a wide net. The only problem is you're left with things that you really might not personally enjoy until maybe later on when they start tying these dots and you get some of those moments. You're like, oh, now it makes sense why they did that, right? And then it really changed your perspective on how you felt about it. Because for me, I really didn't like WandaVision right off the bat. But then once they started tying some of those dots and I understood a little bit more why they made certain moves in those shows, I went back and rewatched and I actually really enjoyed it. I completely changed my opinion on it, right? So I think a lot of times we have to give them a little leash, not a full long leash, but a little leash to give them some time to tie those dots. Because I think WandaVision was a great example for me in getting me to change my opinion because they tied those dots.
One thing I want to add too, and this is something I think people completely just keep forgetting, the whole world was shut down, guys. So it's like they were trying to shoot this. They're supposed to shoot this in July of 2022. It got postponed and pushed all the way to March of 2021. They started filming in April of 2021, and now we're watching it a whole year later. And think about that. A whole year later after shooting, all of the CGI they had to do, all the writing, and this is the product that we've gotten, right? So I think people don't realize quite yet that there's going to be a little bit of a hiccup until we get past this sort of pandemic, like pre-production phase. And I think we may not get there until after Black Panther or the Secret Invasion after, because even Black Panther got pushed back, like there's a lot of these projects are getting pushed back because I think they were stretched thin. I think now Disney is probably, a bit more liquid, has some more cash flow coming in. We'll probably see a little bit of some adjustments going on. But I think, as you said, Jamie Lee, like they were just so stretched thin, trying to get something out, trying to like continue that pace because everyone was stuck at home because of the pandemic. They had no idea how long it was going to go. And I think it's hurt the quality. Honestly, it's hurt the quality a little bit. One last question I want to ask you before I go into a little surprise here. Marley asked, were you all fooled by the Disney Plus main screen bit?
I'm gonna let Jamie Lee. I know, Jamie, you made a comment specifically on this before, so I want to hear your opinion first.
I thought it was really creative. I loved in Miss Marvel, the animated style, the way that they shot it was so different. So seeing something like that, I thought, wow, that's sick. Like she's literally swinging around like Spidey and jumping into a different movie. And I thought, what a perfect opportunity for that scene there to be at the end of this season, showing us what she's going to jump into next. Is she going to jump into Daredevil Reborn? And her literally jump into what she's going to be into next. What a cool opportunity. What a missed opportunity. That would have looked sick. But instead, we get her jumping into the real world, coming in, being a spoiled brat, saying, I want this and I want that. Shut up. Sorry, but it was wasted. I mean, it looked great. I thought it was super cool, but what a freaking waste. I'm sorry. Sorry, Marley. We're very different opinions.
I wasn't fooled by it. I thought it was really cool, right? Like
Same.
I thought I didn't even think about that. Was a great call out, Jamie Lee. Like doing that would be such a cool way to get her just like jumping into other people's shows, right? But no, it didn't fool me. And it was part of why I really liked this episode, though. It was like the whole just complete change of pace, I think, halfway through, right? Because we were going about it normally, and then I think we got to like the 14th minute mark, and then all this stuff started happening that I really enjoyed. So that's where, like I said, I really enjoyed it because I think they needed to do more of things like this, more breaking the boundaries on the creativeness that we've never really seen before in the MCU, and then it would have worked. But yeah, they didn't do
that's
that.
That's where we are. Yeah. Yep. And I also enjoyed it, so there's no need to kind of rehash that. I do think and we can all go around and say our final thoughts on this series or thoughts on this episode, but I thought this is sort of the level of creativity and intellect that I was expecting from this show, because I thought, I heard so much about how much of a boss she is and how like she likes to be funny and controversial. And so I thought we would get a little bit more of that. And, here we are at the end of this season talking about the Disney Plus main screen bit. And so it's like, that should really tell you all you need to know about this series. I do think there are some, fun moments. There's some nice Easter eggs. I do believe, this may be a hot take with this group, I do believe there are people out there who would watch this, think it's super funny, hilarious. Like some people really like the show Blackish, which is sort of the same sort of tone as this. And I think Blackish is the most corny show of all fucking time. Like I hate that show. Blackish, I would rather pour acid on my eyes than watch that show, okay? Like, terrible show. And so I think, oh, look, Corey's got Moon Knight going on in the background there.
I don't know what that was.
He is popping up again.
The power supply in Hudson, Massachusetts is looking sketchy right now.
Yeah, Corey's about to go. Whoa. But no, it totally just didn't really work for me, which is a shame. But I am excited to see where the character goes next. Corey, what do you think?
I don't know, man, but I think Moon Knight season 2 needs to have me in it as a cameo, because I am ready to go.
A movie. Let's make it a movie.
Yeah. Honestly, I got thrown off. What was your question again? I apologize.
No, just your final thoughts on She-Hulk before we move on in the series as a whole.
Final thoughts on She-Hulk. Like I said, I'm gonna just stick to what I was mentioning before. I think if they take the tone like I think they wanted to set in this show, where Jen and She-Hulk are one, she's kind of accepted that. She wants this lifestyle. She wants to be a superhero while also being a lawyer and just being confident in that. That's the Jen I ultimately want to see. If it's not, and it's the same Jen we've seen, I kind of want to what Jamie Lee said, just use her as cameos, throw in there, but that's like really to the extent of what I want to see here.
Final words, the female of the group.
Yeah, I think I've said enough. As a female, I'm disappointed that there were female writers that really failed me. And they did. I'm sorry, but they did. It's a perfect opportunity to represent females in a strong way, and you failed on that. You made us look like idiots. You made us look like man haters, and I'm not down with that. I'm not going to watch the next series of She-Hulk if there is one, because I'm just so turned off, and I feel insulted that they are saying, here's what you want, we're not going to give it to you because we're different. But we're not different enough to be cool and different. We're just different that we're going to stuff everything up, but then say, hey, guess what, it was part of the writing, it was part of the plan. Hey, do better. That's my response to that. Do better. And anyway, I'm not a fan, not down. Happy to see her in other things, and don't get me wrong, here's my positive out of everything. She was a phenomenal actress. I loved her facial expressions. I loved the sassy attitude when she was supposed to have that, but none of it worked within the narrative. I did not like that part of it, but she's great as an actress. Yeah.
Listen, I mean, as a fellow minority here, if, like I said, if Black Panther, they made Black Panther, and he was out here rapping, they gave him fried chicken, they had him doing all this stereotypical bullshit, I would have been like, I'm out on Marvel as a whole. So I can only imagine how you feel. Like I said, I think
there's a lot of people like that, Tyrone. I think there's a lot of people who have really been turned off, men mostly, because they're like insulting them. They're saying men are stupid, really. That was the message throughout the whole thing, whether it was the people in the intelligentsia or male. Whether it was Todd. In the very first episode, I think it was, where we met the lawyer guy, Dennis. Pug, all of them were made out to be bad. The imposter lady literally walked out and was like, I forget the quote right now, but it's just they were all sort of just made to be these horrific people, these bad. I think, and this is sort of like what, on the Circle Club, our whole thing is we try to make things positive. We try to, show some light, show the universe of what we want to see out there, right? I think when you have stories about, underserved people, minorities, women, there doesn't always need to be a story about struggle with these characters. You can have a story where they live a normal life. She could have totally met someone like Corey, who was
super kind and friendly, and and they sort of give you this guy at the end, like the friend who's like, oh, this is cringy, I don't want to be at this incel meeting. But where was he throughout the entire show? Like, she has no allies other than like this one man, and it just and then she meets Daredevil, right? And he obviously is an ally, but she has to sleep with him, and it's like, it just, to your point, Jamie Lee, it just wasn't. They didn't execute at the end of the day.
And I think a lot of people are turned off Marvel because of it, from what I've seen with ratings and reviews and everything like that. So I think it's very smart that they now, from this, our next project is Black Panther, because I feel like a lot of people, myself included, I'm not a very big DC fan, but I know myself, I am so hyped for Black Adam. I'm like, yes, this might, and I really have said this for a long time, that I really think that The Rock is going to be our Tony Stark. He's going to be Robert Downey Jr., sorry. He's going to be the guy who really lifts this franchise up and makes this a really strong franchise. So I think that a lot of people like myself would have been like, oh my God, DC, like this is the greatest thing ever. And turned off She-Hulk. Turned off Marvel a bit. But as I said, I think it's really smart that they're putting Black Panther next, because that will really bring everybody together, because I don't know of anybody who has hated on Black Panther, and I don't know of anybody who is like, oh, I'm not looking forward to this. So I think that's a really good,
it's going to be
suck us back in.
Yeah, like I said, like that was kind of to my point with like because there's so many projects, there are some projects that you will be excited for, but I think when it comes to Phase 4 and especially it ending, there's, like, to your point, no better project to end it on than Black Panther 2, because I think in that regard, I don't know a single person that hates the original Black Panther. A lot of people refer to it as one of the greatest MCU movies, and I think especially with Chadwick's death, a lot of people are very excited to see this movie. And me and Tyrone were one of the first critics of having low expectations for this movie, and this is completely turned around since the trailers and stuff came out. I'm extremely excited for it. And we're not obviously talking DCEU here, but I'm very, very intrigued to see how The Rock might be able to change the hierarchy.
We'll have to have
people will leave. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, for DC. We'll have to have a different discussion about DC, because we can go all day about them. I have so many issues, but I want to do this really quick. We didn't plan this, but let's just kind of go around, give our own sort of thoughts, ideas, rankings on where some of these things are in Phase 4. Now that we're heading towards the end here, should we go in order? Or should we just do it random? What do you think?
I think it only makes sense to go in order, right?
All right. So first we got WandaVision.
So varied though. I love WandaVision.
First we got WandaVision. Would you give it S, A, B, C, or D?
Jamie Lee, we're gonna let you go first as the guest.
I loved it. I'm going D. It's my favorite series.
No, S is the highest tier.
S is the highest. Yeah.
Oh, it's sorry, like Red's bad. Tyrone, do better. Do better with your ranking.
No. So I'm just placing it so people can see for now. That's not my ranking. So
all right. So if S is good, then I'm going top. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Tyrone, where do you have it?
Personally, I got it around B. So this was sort of where it landed for me, and B isn't bad for me. Like on our like rankings, like to me, S is like, wow, I'm gonna watch it with my kid one day.
Hall of Fame.
A is like, this is a really great movie for this time, and then for B, it's like, yeah, there were some really good things here, but it wasn't quite what I needed. C is like, this is pretty meh for Marvel, and then D was basically like, you didn't get the job done. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I'm
at a B. Where were you?
I had it at a B too, so I think we could safely probably put it at an A as a median here. Okay. We'll just take median score.
Yeah, we'll do median scores. All right, so next we had what? Falcon?
Yes.
Falcon was. Go ahead, Corey, you first.
I was gonna say Falcon to me was. It was kind of like based on our rankings, like it was like a lower tier B for me, right? Like there was some good elements, but it didn't really like move the needle a ton, right? Yeah. I think it's below WandaVision to me, so that's why I say like low B.
Yeah, I would probably have it low B too. There was some elements I liked. That was sort of Disney sort of still getting their footing, in my opinion. We got JJ Lomas Entertainment here. It says S for Falcon, so we might got throw that into the median score. Jamie Lee, what do you got here?
I'm going B. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, so that is our consensus then. B. All right, next we got what was next?
You could probably go with
Black Widow.
Black Widow. This one was a very big meh to me, so I'm gonna go with a C.
I'm going D. It was too little, too late. They left it way too long to tell her story. Nobody cared about her story by that point. And yeah, the only real good thing that came out of it was Yelena, because obviously that's going to flow onto Thunderbolts and things like that. But
yeah,
like we already
David
knew
Harbour
that story.
too. Red Guardian. Can't forget the Red Guardian now.
True. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, he will be in that also. So two good things that came out of that, but the rest of the story, I felt like it was just revenge because we already knew what happened with her. We already knew she wasn't able to conceive children. We already knew her story. I think it was kind of
I think to your point though, it's just a little too late. I thought the reason why I said meh was because you got the Red Guardian, you got Yelena, and I think they did do a good job really showing off Black Widow's skills and all that stuff within it, especially in how she kind of got the ring from him. But like I agree with you, it was no more than meh.
Hot take, but I would have probably put this right next to the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I thought it was funny. I liked the cast. I thought it was a little too late, but I think we'll have to put this down at Corey, you had a lower C.
I had C. It sounds like you have a B and Jamie Lee has a D. So
leave it at C. I'll up mine. I won't be such a negative Nancy. Sorry, guys.
No.
It's
hot.
good.
Let's bump it up.
It's good. No. I did, just so you know, JL Lomas, Isaiah, I love that whole storyline. Again, a B is not bad. B is just like, it wasn't like Hall of Fame for us.
Yeah, it's like good.
Next, next, what do we have after Black Widow?
Loki,
our Marvel
probably.
expert?
Loki, I think it is.
Loki, you're doing these in order. My bad.
Yes. We're trying to do it, attempting to do them in order.
Yeah, we might be a little off, but
Loki is S tier for me, and I'm completely biased. I know that. I don't care.
It's Loki to me is my favorite MCU show that's been released by far.
Yeah. And what about you, Jamie Lee?
I'm going to say it wasn't my favorite. WandaVision was, but it's definitely important to the wider picture of things. But I just got really lost with all the timelines and time zones. And but obviously, again, we've spoke about this on the show that, all that's going to eventually, like connect the dots and stuff. But at the time I was like, so so I was a little bit like, But in saying that, I love Tom Hiddleston, love the character Loki. And I thought it was great.
And I think that that's a question that I do wonder a lot is how are they with this new alternate universes, multi-universes, how are we going to know which universe we're in? Like they're going to need clear indicators, like maybe everyone in this universe is wearing this or that.
But who cares when She-Hulk can just write it all? She can just come in and be like, guys, don't worry, there is no Kang anymore. Like it's Hot take. Marley says Loki a D. Oh my god. Just because of that, it's getting an S. That is absurd. I'm sorry. You're doing what
Marley.
Marvel's doing right now. This is what you want. You want a D? Well, I'm going to give you something else.
Yeah. This is their Circle Club show. Okay, I'm sorry. We're not. There's no way. All right. What do we got next?
I think we got. No. Maybe Eternals. It's Eternals or Shang-Chi.
Oh my god.
Now the Eternals was fun to me, but it was probably a C. It was a fun movie experience to get us back there for me, but it didn't. They needed to execute a little bit better, but I did think it was fun. So
yeah, I got it in a C too.
And what about you, Miss Jamie Lee?
D. Hated it.
D. Ooh. Okay. Well then.
D. Down.
I guess you gotta give it a D. We'll give the lady a D. She said give the D.
Stop.
So, all right. Let's move on. What do we got next? Hawkeye. Let's do Hawkeye.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Hawkeye?
I liked it.
It was like It was like a high C for me. It was a high C.
It was a character that, like, I've never really cared about Clint. I know that sounds horrible, but he's just been like an eh. And this was sort of, so I didn't think I needed this series, but yeah, I thought it was a good, like, good for him to sort of stand on his own a little bit and hold the show, which I think he did well. And obviously introducing, you know, Yelena was in there, and Kate Bishop, you know, I thought all that worked pretty good. I really liked it.
So what was your ranking?
I'm gonna go B. Yeah,
it was B. Okay, and Corey, what was your ranking?
I was a high C, so B's fair.
Okay, and then we got Hawkeye is a C from Marley. JJ said it was an S. All right. Wow, this is a shock, but I would say B, I guess. Then I would say probably a high C. So I'll go with that. I'll go with the majority there. Next, what about Shang-Chi?
Shang-Chi. This to me was a good movie. I really enjoy this movie. Every time I go back and watch it, I still enjoy it. So this is like a high B for me. Like, I can't say it's an A, but it's a high B for me.
I'll go up to an A. I would give it an A. Jamie Lee?
I'm gonna go B. This is a show that I didn't expect to like, and I really did. And they nailed the comedy in it. Like, I thought this was a really funny show, movie. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought Shang-Chi was hilarious. I hate that I'm going to say this, but I'll say it anyways. Like, it just took me back because there was so much, like, badass martial arts. And it just took me back to, like, the beautifulness that we see in Crazy Rich Asians. Corey, if you haven't seen Crazy Rich, I know you don't like rom-coms, dude, but if there's ever one to watch, it's this movie. It's like the production value is absurd.
It's not How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
No, no, it is not. It is absurd, bro. Like, you watch this and you're like, wow.
So yeah, just for the record, I do not like rom-coms unless Matthew McConaughey's in it. I'll always watch it if Matthew McConaughey.
I was gonna say, what's wrong with How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days?
No, it's a good one.
All right, so we got Shang-Chi at a B.
Yeah, I think that's a fair spot for it. Let's go. What if next? What if next? What
next? I think it's a low B for me personally. I think that there was things that we got to explore. It was fun, but there was a couple episodes in there that I could have cared less for. But it was definitely cool for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot for it, right? Like, there is some episodes I extremely enjoyed, and then shout out the Peggy Carter episode. Didn't really care for it, but yeah, I think that's a good spot.
JJ says it is a C or a B. Marley says it's a C. And Jamie Lee, final decision, B or C?
Yeah, I'm going C. It was
fair.
Just meh.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. All right, let's run through these last ones real quick here.
No Way Home.
No Way Home. This at the time, like, I thought it was a fun movie. Like, I think I'm being a little bit too harsh of a critic. I had it like a high B, but I think this got everyone back to the theater. We were having a blast. It was a good time, and that has value to me. So I would think it's an A. Like, you know, I don't know. What does everyone else feel?
It was a spectacle. Like, when you think about spectacles, you can't knock that this was a spectacle. And, like, it wasn't a bad story. I think, to what you're saying, like, when it first came out, I was so excited. I really enjoyed it. We always talk about the knock we had on letting the Toby Andrew rumor slip too early. It kind of ruined the surprise. And I think over time, this movie isn't like Shang-Chi, where, like, I have that same exact excitement when I watch it, and that's why I kind of lean towards a high B. But because of the spectacle itself, I can easily put this in the A category still.
Totally. Jamie Lee?
Wow. I'm S. I loved this movie. I really did. Like, just the fact that you know, Peter number 3, you know, saves MJ in this universe, that alone was worth an S. Like, come on. If you didn't try that, fuck me.
Yeah, listen, you know what? I think, honestly, we got to bring it up to an S just for the fact, Corey, alone. One day you will watch this movie with your son or daughter, honestly.
Totally. No,
you will. So I think Jamie Lett was a compelling argument for sure. Congratulations.
You don't have to move it up just because I watched it, Tyrone.
No, we do. It's because it is one of those movies. Moon Knight.
Moon
I think we
Knight.
all know how I felt about that one.
Yeah, she hated it. I gotta say, honestly, for what I think they should have done in this show,
Yeah,
I gotta give it a C. To be honest.
a C. Okay, I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
gotta give it a
fair.
C.
I think there was a lot of potential here, but yeah, it didn't land quite what we needed. There was some very cool elements that make this a high C, low B for me. We got to get that ancestral plane sort of thing. We got to learn that there's different, but it was a bit clunky how we got there. What do you think, Miss Jamie Lee?
Where the hell is Jake? That's what I think. Like, come on. Ugh.
Mm.
I wanted to see that third personality.
Yeah.
Super disappointed with the ending. Like, we have Layla coming in as a superhero.
Yeah.
Where did that spring from? Oh, the whole thing. I was really leading up to, all right, something good's going to come here. Like, we're going to lead to something good. I think episode 4 was that really emotional one. That was fantastic. That was such a good episode. And then just that ending was like, oh, terrible. And the giant fight scene that they had, it was just like, this is slow. This is clunky. This sucks. I was waiting for this. Come on. D,
yeah. All right. So we
lower
got
than a D if I could.
Yeah. All right, let's do this real quick. These last 4 rapid fire because we got to get out of here. I don't know if you guys can hear my cat screaming in the background. Multiverse of Madness. Corey, give me a letter.
S.
Okay, Jamie Lee.
I'm happy with S2. I loved it. Everyone hated it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Yeah.
I watched this movie like a week ago. I fall asleep to it. It's amazing. It's phenomenal.
We don't need to talk
Marvel.
about She-Hulk. You know where She-Hulk goes. You know where She-Hulk goes. Just put it there. Let's get it out the way. Miss Marvel. This is an A to me. I really enjoyed the show.
I also really enjoyed it too. Thought it was clever. Jamie Lee.
Do what you want. It sucked. D, lower than a D.
Whoa.
Oh, Miss Marvel. Sorry. I thought we did She-Hulk. We've already done She-Hulk. Sorry, guys. No. Yeah, I'll go B, A, or B. It was different. Okay. Disappointed with the ending, as I said before. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought you liked that. Thor.
Yeah, I did. Oh my god, lower than a D.
I would say a D.
Yes, me too.
All right, so we got, let's see, a couple answers out here. Multiverse was S. Multiverse of Madness was a B for Wanda alone. Miss Marvel is a B. Sure. She-Hulk is an A. Thor is a C. All right, and then finally, if you had to take a guess before we wrap this thing up, so that way we could reference this and all 3 of us can come back. Where do you think Black Panther 2 is going to rank on this list?
I already told you. S. I think it's going to be the show that brings everybody back together after this shit show that we just broke us all then. So, yeah. S.
I might break the internet right now.
Oh, God.
I think Black Panther 2 has the potential to be actually better than Black Panther 1.
I thought you were going to say it would suck.
I know.
Yeah.
If I could make a category, knowing we had time, I know we have no time, but I would put this in SS category. I think they have the potential to not only be better than Black Panther 1, but absolutely shock us with us just like this. Me right now, how I'm responding, just like, wow, did I really just watch that? That was impeccable.
Totally. I think, as you all know, and I want to put it in every video, Dr. Doom will show up and disrupt Namor. I think Nakia is pregnant and we're getting a T'Challa Jr. I think this is going to be phenomenal how this ends. If Dr. Doom kills T'Challa, I will stand up in the theater, Corey, and go, I am the smartest man alive! I can't wait for this movie. That's going to do it for this video, folks. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys go and subscribe to this beautiful young lady, Miss Jamie Lee. Miss Jamie Lee, thank you for coming on in the front row. Subscribe to Corey What's Next. This was a blast. We will definitely be back making more content. Jamie Lee, let them know what you got going on.
I have Batman Legacy video coming out. I've got an interview with one of the boys, the boy, in the Cobra Kai, the 5th season of Cobra Kai coming out. I've got my segment on the First Watch, which is the Star Wars stuff going on. So, yeah, a few things coming up. Obviously, the Walking Dead content, that's hot right now. So, yeah, I'm pumping that. And it's the final season. So, yeah, expect tears at the end of that. But that's what I've got coming on.
Love to hear it. Corey, what you got? What you got?
Yeah, for me, we're wrapping up House of the Dragon over here. For some of my followers, I'm really into Rings of Power. I haven't been talking about it a lot, but I'm really enjoying that show. I would really recommend it to a lot of people out there. We got obviously Black Panther coming up. Werewolf by Night review is going to be coming out soon too. You know me, I'm the Marvel guy, the Star Wars guy, the Game of Thrones guy. So anything revolving around that stuff, be on the lookout for me.
Absolutely. All right. It's been a blast. You guys know where to find me, as always, on the internet, being silly and making a fool of myself. Take care, everyone. Have a great night or good morning. Be safe. We'll see you in the next video. And remember, just be you. Peace.
Bye.